All right, guys, it is Sunday. We are in the June challenge with Flip with Rick. And actually, I don't think I've ever done a live on a weekend or a Sunday. So it's kind of cool. So we're going to go a little bit slower today. And today is all about breaking down contracts. And if you've never dealt with a real estate contract, specifically with wholesaling or any type of real estate in general, this is the live stream for you. So what we're going to do is break it down. I'm going to go over the important things you need to understand, and we are going to go through step by step, fill out a complete purchase and sale agreement specifically for wholesaling. And then right after that, we're going to do an assignment of contract, and I'm going to walk you through both contracts from scratch. So if you guys are trying to fill one out now for an offer you're trying to make, this is perfect. You can do it along with me. And guys, don't worry. This is live. It is 5:03 p.m. Eastern on June 5th. So this will be recorded. You can check it out in the Flip with Rick YouTube channel. I believe it will pop up there. So if you guys are on Facebook and you're on TikTok or anything like that, just go back to YouTube and it will all be there for you. So, what else can I say, man? This is Sunday, so it's kind of weird. So I feel like I get a little bit more of your attention on like a weekend. So the whole purpose of this June challenge, and if you guys haven't heard about the June challenge, is we are giving away prizes, having a contest for the entire month of June to get you to your first wholesale deal. You enter your name in at support at Flip with Rick and say, I'm into the June challenge. And then if you provide proof that you entered into a contract and like an assignment contract, we'll probably reach out to you, verify the winners, and we're going to do a drawing at the end of the month for like insane prizes, free data services. We've got a lot of bling for you, all sorts of fun stuff. And then for the top winners, we are going to give away some one-on-ones, some free mentoring from me and Zach. So the fact that we don't even offer it is a really cool prize. And keep in mind, guys, the ultimate prize is to get you to become financially free and free with your time. So we're just using stuff to kind of incentivize you. But at the end of the day, when you get a wholesale deal done, that is the ultimate reward. The reward is for you and your family and everybody else involved into it. So guys, let's get going. I see everybody here on Sunday. Let me know in the comments. You can say which market you're in, where you're from. Let me know if you're getting started. If you're new to wholesaling, don't worry. If you're brand new to wholesaling, you are in the perfect spot. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I believe most people overcomplicate this business. That's why you see the huge guru fees. And me and Zach are the only ones here to absolutely teach you 100% for free. What do I get in return? I get an incredible network of people, create a legacy, and pass it down my son, and you guys keep growing this thing. So, guys, if you are new to us, the first thing I want you to do is hit that subscribe button. That'll notify you every time we go live, and we will notify you. Email, you'll also get a little bit of a warning with YouTube. And guys, give me some love on this, man. I need you to smash that like button. So the more likes we get, more people can reach this feed, and the more people we can possibly help out. So guys, it's Sunday. I know you guys got everything done. You're probably getting ready to get like the family dinner. So we're going to get down to business and get this going. But before we get started, okay, especially if you're new to this, is we have a way of doing wholesaling, and you got to have fun doing this. Guys, join me. Let's get the energy. We're going to jump into purchase and sale agreements. Let's go.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go. Get up, and they got go. Time to wake up, bitch. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up.
Okay, guys. So we play this video on every one of our live streams because honestly, if you can't have fun wholesaling, don't do it. Life's too short for this, guys. The whole purpose of why we get involved in the wholesaling in the beginning is really to help people out and solve as many problems as we humanly can. And in return, you will get your financial freedom and you will get time back to do the things that are most important to you guys. I worked a corporate job forever. I went to college. I followed everything my parents told me to do. And I'm going to be honest with you, it didn't work. So I made a change at 33. I spent 20 years perfecting my craft of wholesaling, and I'm here to share it with you. I've shared it with my son. I've shared it with thousands of people, and I know what I'm talking about when I come to this. And here's the commitments I'm going to make to you. I'm not going to over talk. I'm going to simplify this. I find the contracts, in my opinion, they're important, but people complicate the heck out of it. So if you have a question while we're doing this in the comments section, go ahead and put your question in there. I try to take them in order, and I'm going to give a short presentation. And right after the presentation, we are actually going to walk through the purchase and sales agreement and the assignment agreement and do it step by step. And if you have any questions, that's the time to ask it. So guys, without further ado, let's jump into it. So you guys kind of see my face there. So how to fill out wholesale contracts. Obviously, I'm Rick Ginn. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm the Rick and Flip with Rick. My son, Zach, which you guys see almost on a daily basis, I'm his father. So I love this journey on wholesaling. I believe if more people would just be authentic and just share what they exactly do, we could all get a lot more deals done. So you guys have proven it. I've had thousands of people post their checks on successful deals they've done. And if you guys are brand new, go over to, before we get started, you can say, hey, Rick, where do I get this information from? It's really, really easy. Let me get this off of there. Go over to freewholesaling.com, and once you register, you put in your email. Yes, you got to put in a valid email address. Everything we do is free. I'm never going to ask you for a credit card. So if you're worried you're going to get upsold or I'm going to pound you with something in the end, I don't have it for you. You can get off the stream now if that's what you want. We don't do that. So I've been doing this 20 years. I make plenty of money wholesaling properties. So I'm going to teach you guys exactly how I got started in this business and how you can put $100,000 in your bank account. It's actually much easier than you think it is. I taught my 17-year-old son while he was in high school to do it, and I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. So if you want to figure out how to get these contracts, go over to freewholesaling.com. You'll have the purchase contract there and the assignment contract. If you want to have them ready to go while we're going through the presentation, you can download them, and that way you can walk through it. And here's what I recommend. You actually go through and try to fill one out all by yourself. And then as I go through the walkthrough, it will help you solve problems. Remember, it's one thing to learn any type of skill set in a classroom, like you guys went to school. But if you actually do it and then somebody walks you through afterwards, it's much more powerful for you to learn. So you can take that tip and you can do what you want with it. Go to freewholesaling.com. All the information is going to be there. So let's jump into it. How to fill out wholesaling contracts. So number one, I'm starting out with my disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. Thank God I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. Thank you. And I am definitely not a psychic. And the thing is, I don't know everything of what my sellers are thinking. I don't know exactly what you guys are thinking. So let's not make any assumptions on this. So make sure you seek legal advice with a qualified lawyer within your state so you can understand your legal rights, obligations, and when entering into these contracts. So remember, you are responsible for any contract you write. Be responsible. Do not write reckless contracts. I want you to take these 2 hours, and by the end of this, you will be confident you know how to fill out a contract, and Rick walked you through it. So guys, keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer, an accountant, or a psychic, and you have to be responsible when you write these contracts. So now that we got our legal disclaimers out of the way, let's talk through and say, hey, listen, what is a contract? And a contract is nothing more than an agreement to purchase a property, a piece of property, okay? It's basically what you take verbally. You say, listen, I'm going to buy your property for 100,000. Now you're going to put it in motion and you're actually going to put it in writing. This is the start of what we call a contract. So you guys hear contracts in everything in life. It's often referred to as a PSA. That's just a fancy acronym for purchase and sales agreement. Keep in mind, a lot of people in our business will try to talk over you. It's important you understand these acronyms. They're actually real simple. Remember, purchase and sale. That's basically a buyer and a seller's agreement. Okay. Our goal is to sell that contract to a cash buyer or someone with significant amount of money for a profit. That is our goal of our contract. You guys have to use contracts in any type of wholesaling, especially any type of real estate. So there's no way to get around to this. So you might as well just kind of button up. We'll figure out how to do this. I promise you, we will make this as fun as I humanly possibly can. We're talking about contracts. Okay. The next contract that we are going to learn about today is basically your assignment of contract. And the assignment of contract is the piece of paper the seller writes for the house to a cash buyer for an assignment fee, also known as like a finder's fee. This is definitely not a commission. A commission is related to something a realtor would collect. So basically a finder's fee, say if you found someone's dog that was missing and they go, listen, I'll give you $100 for finding my dog. This is kind of the same thing as for that. So the assignment contract is a contract that comes in behind your purchase and sales agreement. And don't worry, I'm going to walk through the whole thing. It's actually really, really simple. So there's only two contracts needed in wholesaling, okay? Your purchase contract, also known as a PSA, and a purchase and sales agreement. And the second one is an assignment of contract, which basically allows you to sell your contract to another buyer and you collect the difference. Guys, this is wholesaling in a nutshell. You can go through 6 months of coursework. You can go through 2 years of coursework. At the end of the day, you find deeply discounted deals. You put them under contract, and then you sell your contract to a cash buyer and you make the difference. So if I put a property under contract for $100,000 and then I have someone interested in buying my contract for $120,000, you get a finder's fee and assignment fee of $20,000. Okay. Guys, give me a yes that you understand it. If you're brand new to this, I want you to understand how this works because I'm simplifying this today. I find people really complicate this and we need to keep it super simple. I tell you to review it with an attorney to make sure you get it right. Because remember, we have 50 different states. There's a lot of different little finite things. So when we go over the contracts, I'll remind you again, and you will want to just review it with a title company, hopefully with an attorney involved. And guys, keep in mind, give me 10 different attorneys. I'll give you 10 different opinions. I want you to understand this. I've been wholesaling for 20 years. Okay. My contracts work fine. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. Do not overcomplicate these contracts because if you want them perfected in perfect legal terms, they're going to be like 30 pages long. I'm going to show you how to do it in 2 pages. So let's keep moving. I see you all commenting on here. I'm keeping an eye on all the questions. Okay. So once again, where do I get these contracts, Rick? If you go over and register at freewholesaling.com, it's 100% free. And basically you go over to the contract section, you can download them. And if you want, while we're going through it, a great exercise, practice before you do it with a seller so you understand what you're doing. So in this presentation, I'm going to teach you the basics of contracts and how to use them effectively for wholesaling. And then after that, we're going to fill out each of the contracts step by step. So if you've never done it before, this is like perfect. Honestly, a lawyer would probably charge you a fortune to even walk through like a 2-hour session like I'm doing right now. So, okay. Listen, once you get the property under contract, okay, meaning you fill out this paperwork, and basically, guys, all you are is taking your verbal agreement and put it in writing, and 2 parties consent with signature and a lot of details, which you're going to go through, is you're going to give that piece of paper, your contract, to the title company, okay? So it's real simple. It's you meet with a seller, you come to an agreement with the seller, You put your agreement in writing and you give that agreement to your title company. That's how you start all wholesale transactions. There's no way around it. You have to do it in that order. And if you don't do it in that order, you're going to have problems. Okay. Now remember, when you download those contracts, there's disclosures on the tippy top. Guys, please remove it. It's a Word doc. It's easy to remove. And then after you review it with your title company and your attorney, you can make the subtle changes to your liking for the contract in Google Docs, and you can edit it. Okay. Remember, I give them away for free. If I had to write 50 contracts for 50 states, that would be my full-time job. So these contracts will get you to the finish line. If some of you are in Texas, some of you are in Georgia, I see everybody everywhere. I've done a contract in almost every state. They work in all states. Some states have attorney states and they want their say in it. So guys, you can edit them. It's not a PDF where it's set in stone. It's a Google Doc and you can adjust it accordingly. Please take off the disclaimer on the top because it's not going to do you any good with your sellers. Okay. And I want you to understand these contracts have been written over 20 years. Okay. I'm not an attorney. Honestly, you can have a million things in a contract. So the reason a state approved realtor and attorney contracts are typically 20 pages because every little tiny thing's in there. In my opinion, a 20-page contract is going to freak out most of your motivated sellers. And unless you have, like, it's a specific request, the simpler you can make your contract, the better you can communicate to your seller and have a positive outcome. Okay. Trying going through a 20, 21-page document with a motivated seller is painful. And because they just want to sign and they want to get on with their lives. So they are trusting it to you. So let's walk through it. So these are the rules before we start. Keep in mind, most motivated sellers, as I said earlier, they want simple and clear contracts. For today's purposes, I'm going to give you a purchase and sale agreement that is 2 pages. Okay. If it was up to me, I would do these things on the back of a cocktail napkin, which you can legally do. But there's only so many terms you have to put in. The reason why you have 21-page documents is because you have the National Association of Realtors, you have Association of Lawyers in there, and they're all trying to protect their own interest. And the bottom line, you have to protect your interest and you got to be fair to the seller. Past that, you could go on. Why do you think some documents in like Congress are thousands of pages? The details are ridiculous. So if you have an agreement to sell the property and it's straightforward, you should be able to get it done in 2 pages. Why stop at 2 pages? I just, to me, I like clear, simple contracts. That's what we do. Okay. Guys, I want you to understand this and please confirm you understand this. The contract is not the negotiating. It is not the negotiations. Okay. You're going to do that all beforehand. If you wait to do negotiations when you start the contract, you're not doing wholesaling correctly. Okay. You need to get all that stuff out of the way before you go to the written agreement, because once you start altering the written agreement, it's a nightmare. Okay. And there becomes real trust issues. So I like to get everything laid up in front. I go over it verbally, and then I ask for permission to write the contract. So many people teach it backwards where you try to negotiate with the contract. I'm here to tell you that's how you freak out sellers and you make them very nervous, and then you lose trust in them. So remember, the contract is not a negotiation. Okay. Contracts should not have surprises. Your seller should not be surprised with something in the contract. Okay. And if something wasn't addressed in the contract, work it out with your seller. Don't sit there and go, well, the contract says, okay, that's realtor talk. We don't do that unless they're flat out lying to you or something like grossly changed. That's an agreement. Let me give you an example. I once bought a property. This was like 2 years ago. And yeah, so we always include the appliances in it. Well, somebody removed the air conditioning. Okay. Don't ask me who. Like there was a wild story on it, but I had to renegotiate the contract because the AC was considered an appliance to the house and it was gone. It was a $6,000 item. It was significant. Okay. That stuff that has to be accounted for. But like a lot of times I have a missing microwave, stuff like that. I don't beat them up about it. But here's the thing is you do not want to put a surprise in your contract, because if you do, it will kill your deal and you're going to lose trust in your sellers. Remember, guys, when they sign a contract, that is an agreement for them to sell their property and come to the closing table. If you try to hit them with a bunch of stuff and surprises hidden in the contract, they won't close. So your surprises will only blow up against you. I've seen it time and time again. So we're not looking to put surprises in the contract. Here's a key one. Never, ever, when you guys go on physical appointments, do you bring a briefcase or a big fat folder, hold it next to you with a pen that has your contracts in it on your appointments. Why? Number one, they don't even know you. Number two, you've built zero rapport. Number three, it is going to be a huge distraction to your seller. So have you ever dealt with someone that has like a pack of paper in their hand and like all your eyes do is like you focus on that piece of paper, like, because you got a feeling there's a number on it and that number is distracting you from having a great conversation with the seller. So here's what I learned is I walk in like, hold on, let me fix this here. The way you guys see me right here, this is how I walk into an appointment. Yes, I'm wearing glasses today. I usually wear glasses on the weekend. So if you're not used to me, I promise you, I'm just blind as a bat without my contacts. So this is how I walk an appointment, guys. Do not walk in with giant briefcases, anything like that. And then you're probably saying, well, Rick, how the heck am I supposed to write a contract if I don't bring it in? It's simple. Leave it in your car. And after you go over the verbal, you get the consent, you ask them permission to go ahead and write the agreement. Once they give you permission, you go out in your car, you get it, and then you're going to walk through and you're actually going to write the contract. Okay. For those of you like to pre-fill out the contract past the name and like the legal description, always leave the price and the terms blank because you never know what the final negotiations are going to be. So let me get back into this here. Okay. So guys, when you're at the appointment, that contract, it stays in your car. If you're going to write a contract, just ask for permission to go out and get the agreement. And I've tested this thousands of times. I promise you, if anybody's in the live here, if you've gone to an appointment and you carry a folder, it's very, very distracting because your seller wants to know what your final offer is, and you're creating huge anxiety by doing that. So, yeah, these are my glasses, Corinthian. So it's Sunday. Come on. Sunday's the fun day, right? Okay, let's move on to the next one. So rules for writing a wholesale contract. The contract is to reconfirm your verbal agreement. So we've already been over that. The contract should just be turning your verbal into written. Okay. All the verbal stuff has to be done before, because if you create anxiety, you make them uncomfortable, and you have paperwork, you're just going to overwhelm your seller. And I'm telling you, it's a huge distraction with them. Okay. You need their attention because you need to get as much feedback from your sellers so you can write the correct offer for them. And if they're not paying attention to you and they're paying attention to all your paperwork, then it's going to do you a disservice and the seller. Okay. Guys, your words matter. Okay. You have to avoid trigger words. Yes, we're talking about basic contract. You guys know what I'm talking about. You're probably saying, what the heck is he talking about a trigger word? Okay. A trigger word are nothing more than phrases or words that cause a person to feel strong emotions because of his previous experiences within their subconscious. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. I know that was a fancy definition, but there are things in your life that you've already been predisposed with. And when you see those same conditions or those same words or phrases come up again, it instantly brings you back to a moment that did not make you very happy. Let me give you an example. Okay. You guys ever been pulled over by the red and the blue? I know I have. Listen, to this day, I spent too much time speeding as a kid. When I see these lights pop on, I get this like neurological like response, like, oh my God, I got to pull over. Like I did something wrong. So that is a trigger. So when you see those lights, they're done by design. it makes you just like, oh my God. So it gives you an instant feeling. You don't even have a choice because it's deep in your subconscious. The same things happens with all sellers of properties. So when you say certain words, they freak out. And let me show you how this works. And I'm going to teach you how to overcome this. Okay. So here's a simple one. We're going to the contract. You're going to get their final signature. And you say, listen, let me get your signature. I've single-handedly seen this phrase kill an entire deal. Signature means very final. It's the finality of it. They can't go backwards. It feels like it puts them in a corner. And even though it is the truth, we do need your signature. I've learned over the years just to use words that make it not as triggering. Okay. So the word signature is a big trigger. Here's what you're going to replace it with. Okay. Let me get your autograph. Nobody says no to that. We all think about celebrities, rock stars, athletes. Everybody wants an autograph. My personal, the one I like is, let me go ahead and get your approval. So autograph or approval, don't ask the word signature. The word signature has the word sign in it, and people tie that to mortgages, very bad divorces, things that have like court appointed stuff, and it's wired in their nervous system, and there's nothing you can do to unwind it. So words have consequences. Just guys, the word signature, replace autograph or approval. I'm going to give you another one. And by the way, I could do an entire 2 hours on trigger words. Okay. In real estate. Okay. Let's review the contract. Okay. The word contract sounds very legal, very formal. And I'm here to tell you the word contract will instantly trigger their subconscious to like, hold on, wait a minute. I'm probably going to need to get a second or a third opinion. Guys, I'm telling you, I have had the best conversations, sometimes 2 and 3 hours, and I get to use this word, and you can kill the entire thing just by saying this. So simply replace it with, let's go over our agreement. Okay. Agreement is agreeable. Everybody like it. It's simple. The word contract, it sounds very lawyerish, and you want to avoid it at all possibilities. So, we're going to go over the key elements real quick. I'm looking at some questions on here. Shane says, hey, Rick, do we take notes while on appointment? I think you could take notes, but remember, you're going to distract them when you start writing. So if you can try to do as much as you can by memory, but if you're going to take a note from the seller, say, listen, let me make a note of that and write it down and let them know what you're writing. Don't make it feel like you're at a doctor's appointment. You ever been at a doctor's appointment and the doctor takes a note on you and you can't see it? It gives you anxiety. Like, is it something bad? So remember, Shane, we don't want to stress our sellers out. Okay. So key elements in a wholesale agreement. Number one, I'm just going over the key elements you have to have on all wholesale contracts. It's got to be assignable. Okay. Number two, you have to have some sort of EMD, which is short for earnest money deposit. I'm going to go over that in detail. I promise. We're not going to skip it. The next one you have to have an inspection period. This is basically going to be your clause if you need to get out of the contract because the property doesn't add up, or honestly, you've made a mistake with the property. And I'm going to go into grave detail when we do this on the contract. The next one is all the properties have to be delivered with clear title. Okay. You are going to get properties that have title issues. Part of the process to get the maximum amount from your cash buyers is you have to clear title. No one's going to exchange money without a clean deed. And I'm going to go in detail on how to get it. All properties, how we do them, they have to have clear title. That's what makes everybody feel comfortable and safe. Nobody wants to buy a property with a bunch of liens and stuff on it, and it's going to bleed them to death. Okay. And the last thing is there's going to be closing fees. Your contract has to clearly state what happens with the closing fees. This one is probably the most often overlooked one, and I'm going to go into detail with it. So guys, take a screenshot. Remember, it's recorded. You got to have these 5 elements for it, like any type of contract. I've left out the obvious ones, obviously buyer, seller, and execution date and terms, but a wholesale contract If they don't address these 5 issues, you're going to have pain. And I'm going to walk you through on how to deal with each one of them. Okay. Going to keep moving. The last one. All your contracts should have an additional terms or condition sections. This allows you to make your adjustments to contracts because you're going to get some strange requests from sellers. I've been doing this 20 years, and I'm here to tell you, there's strange things that come along with it. Sometimes boats, cars, I've seen animals negotiated in this. Honestly, you would be blown away with what comes with it. But remember, you always want to have a section where you can write out additional terms, because no contract can foresee every obvious outcome that a seller wants. For this reason, make sure it has a section in there. And this is stuff that you just manually agree on with your seller, and you can just handwrite it in there, because not every contract can spell it out. Even a realtor and a lawyer's contract has a section for this. Don't worry, our contracts have it in there, and it'll all be there for you. Okay. So first thing, EMD, which is earnest money deposit. It goes to the title company, not the seller. Why? Because honestly, we're dealing with motivated sellers. They have a lot of issues going on in their life. To keep everybody honest, if you give it to a title company, you make sure that seller follows through on their agreement and sells you the property. If they don't, your deposit just goes back to you. So never, ever do I want to see you guys give the seller a deposit, because it's a recipe for disaster. There are special cases you can do it. I only want you to do it after you've done like 25 contracts, because it is risky. Remember, they can take that money and never sell you the property, and there's nothing you can do. Okay. So for that purpose is to protect you, especially if you're brand new to wholesaling. Whenever you have an earnest money deposit, it goes to the title company. Okay. I don't care how much your seller begs you. You tell them the quicker they close, the quicker they can get all their money. And once they get the house in order, you can move on to it. So don't ever do this and give it to the seller, because you have no recourse. What are you going to do? Sue them? Number one, it probably costs you more to sue them than the deposit you're going to leave them anyways. And number two, it gives them incentives to get the property sold so they can get paid and you get paid. Okay. Now, any amount, you can do any amount for an earnest money deposit. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, you can technically do zero. I've done zero. I did zero the first 2 years I did this business. You know why? Because I didn't know, but now I know. So I'm here to tell you the biggest risk with a earnest money deposit is in your seller feeling like you are legitimate. Okay. So if you leave a $0 or a $10 deposit, you can create anxiety about it. Remember, it's just a deposit. It is not the final purchase price. So in most states, guys, I'm not a lawyer. You can check with your lawyers. You don't technically have to have an earnest money deposit if the buyer and seller agrees to those terms. Now, if you put down $0, does that alleviate the contract? No, it's actually quite the opposite. You're still on the hook. What we recommend is I always start with a minimum of $100. You can go as high as $1,000. And if you go like, Rick, where am I going to get that? I've always told you, go out and get a private money partner. You can get soft money, you can get hard money. Guys, you spend $100 on meals, games, all sorts of stuff. Just set it aside. And remember, if you have a really, really good deal, like someone's selling you a phenomenal deal, don't let the deposit screw it up. Because remember, the deposit you're going to get back when you do your assignment agreement. So say you had to give $1,000 deposit. Like, well, Rick, it's $1,000. It's a lot of money. I agree. But if you can assign it in 2 to 3 weeks, the minute you assign it, your new person that takes over your position in the contract, they replace your deposit and you get that $1,000 back. If it's $100, $1,000, it doesn't matter. Technically, you don't need a deposit. The risk with doing that is it gives your seller anxiety, and they start to question what you're doing. And the minute they talk to their neighbor or their friend's a realtor and like, what do you mean you didn't leave a deposit? That's BS. He's not real. Then you have a huge uphill battle. And for that reason, I recommend you leaving at least $100 earnest money deposit, maybe $250, maybe $500. If you have a smoking deal and you're getting it 40, 50 cents on the dollar, get $1,000, go get help from someone to get the money. We give you time to get the money on the contract. I'll walk you through it. Guys, earnest money deposit, it's kind of like a litmus test for the buyer to see if you're actually real. And the way we write our contracts is your deposit is the most you're risking on these contracts. So if you walk away from a deal and you leave $100 and you skip the inspection period and you never pull out of the contract, the most they can take from you is the $100. So, but remember, guys, I want you writing responsible contracts, the whole purpose of doing wholesaling with myself and Zach. So understanding the earnest money deposit part, because I know we're going to like beat this thing to death. I've left huge ones before, but guys, if you have a smoking deal and they say the only way you're getting this deal is you're going to leave $1,000 or $2,000 deposit and you're about to make a ton of money in less than 2 or 3 weeks, figure it out. Heck, send me a message. We can partner up on the deal, do something like that. Don't let a deposit kill your deal. It's just a deposit. It's not, the price should be more nerve-wracking to you than the actual EMD. So let me bring this off the screen here. I believe, yeah, that's the presentation on it. So understanding, like, basically, I'm just giving you the basics. Now we are actually going to go through and do the contracts. Let me answer a couple questions before we go through the walkthrough on the contracts. And let me kind of go in order here. So guys, if you're hopping on, we're talking all about the wholesale contracts and the assignments. Nicole understands the contract is not the negotiation. People fighting over a contract, that's realtor mode. You can't do that. You actually have to have a great relationship with your seller, because here's a shocking one. I promise you this. You ready for this? Your verbal agreement is more binding in your motivated seller's mind than your actual contract. They will hear your word over your contract 9 times out of 10. So for example, if you told them you are going to pay for closing costs and in your contract you said the opposite, I guarantee you they will call you to the table on it. It happens all the time to me. Like sometimes we're writing so many contracts, we just screw up. The acquisition guy says this, but the paperwork said that. And here's what I say every time it comes down to it. When there's a squabble on that, I always go to the person who wrote the contract. What was your verbal agreement with the seller? And they go, yeah, I did tell her I'd pay for it. Okay, well, let's fix it. We have to honor our word. So guys, your word is important. Now we have to take those words and put them in a contract. And that's what we're going to walk through here. AJ says, where can I download the contract? Go to freewholesaling.com. Guys, I have the most thorough course on wholesaling available in the world. It's 100% free. There's an entire contracts negotiations in there. I promise you it's in there. I've tested the heck out of it. Use it. And guys, use the whole site. Okay? It'll be good for you. So, okay, let's see. And yeah, it's a 2-page contract. Okay, so Nicole says there's a purchase and sales agreement for the seller and the assignment contract for buyer, separate contracts. Correct. So you're always going to have the purchase agreement. That's between you and your motivated seller. And then the idea to sell your contract to a new cash buyer, that's going to be your assignment agreement. Okay. Brandon says, why do I have to put down EMD for wholesaling? I already kind of know it. You technically don't, but in the eyes of the seller, sometimes there's so much information out there in the world and on the internet. They feel that if someone doesn't leave a deposit, it's not a legitimate contract. That's not legally correct, but that is the moral perception in the public. So if you don't leave a deposit, sometimes sellers won't take you seriously. And that only comes an issue when they start talking to their friends, their uncles, their realtors, and their friends' lawyers. So Sandra asked, do you send the title after signing or after finding the buyer? Once you have a binding contract, meaning both parties have signed for it, you then give it to your title company. They have to do a process, what they call pulling title, and they'll pull title and they're going to tell you if there's any issues with the property. And that's something they actually go over the seller. It's not really your concern unless it's like really major and they can't get the deal done. So good question. Brandon says, I once gave the seller EMD before, so hopefully it worked out for you. But like, guys, if you get in the habit of it, I've done it in the past. Like, they'll burn you. They will sometimes not show up to the table. If you give it to a title company, it keeps them much more honest. So let's see. Some people. Awesome. Michelle says, I have a deal on the line for 90K. So hopefully Michelle's got the right paperwork. So she's going to pay a point. She's going to pay close attention to the section and we'll find out. But I'm sure she does. And then last question here is, John says, well, should we file title company before getting a contract? If you go to freewholesaling.com, I show you how to do most of all that. And you should always be out there looking for title companies. The easiest way to find a title company is find an investor group in your specific city and state and find out what title companies they use. You need an investor-friendly title company. It doesn't mean they'll do anything you ask them to do. They just understand what you're trying to accomplish, and they'll be a big part of your team. So, guys, let's jump into it. I got it. So bear with me. I've got to do. I got to figure out how to pull this up. And okay, so hopefully you guys can see the contract. Somebody give me a thumbs up or a yes. Hey, Rick, I can see the contract. And once I got a yes from there, we're going to walk through it. So if you guys have never done a contract before, this is valuable for you because so many people like try to figure out these things as you go. You can't make mistakes if you don't know what you're doing. I find that the assignment agreement mixes up most of the investors. So, okay. So if you have questions, put them in the comment section. And as I go through, when I'm done filling out the contract, I will bounce back and answer all the questions. So, let me see here. Okay. So what's today, guys? Today is June 5th. So I like to do hard dates. So I'll do 6/5/2022. Now, are these lines annoying? Yeah, but honestly, if you don't have them there, you don't know where to put them. Don't worry about it if you have perfect lines in it. I could care less. And the same thing with your sellers. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm looking at the first time. So put the month in the first one there. Okay. Oh, sorry. See, I already screwed it up for you. Today's the 5th of June. Okay. And you can delete these lines just like this, guys. It's like not the end of the world. But if you didn't have those spaces, you wouldn't know any better on how to do it. Okay. And then it's important you put in the year number. A lot of times when we do it, when the year changes, we forget that together. So if you're the seller, now people are going to ask me, hey, Rick, do I need to have an LLC? If your first couple of deals, you don't need an LLC, guys. The most important thing is to get the property under contract. Okay. So if I'm doing a contract and this is my first one, and I don't have an LLC, I'm just going to put in my name. Now, if you want to put in the middle initial, you can do that. Did you see how to do that and just delete the line and it makes it nice and clean? For typing purposes, I'm not going to sit here and do this all day, but that's how you do it. Okay. Do not remove the word seller with the S on it because that what legally refers you to your name on there. Okay. So I'm not the seller. And by the way, this is the most common. So let's just say it's, I was going to use Johnny Depp, but I don't want to be hit for defamation there. So let's just use Jane Doe. Okay. Jane A. Doe, and always ask for a middle initial, especially for very common names, because you'd be surprised how quickly they get screwed up. Now, the buyer, that's either going to be you or your company. As I said, don't fret if you don't have an LLC, because you can open one up later and you can assign it to your LLC. Because remember, all our contracts have to be assignable. Okay. See how easy this is so far? Now, I want everyone to read the top of this document. Okay. It's highlighted in yellow for a reason. Okay. It's for example purposes. Always seek the advice of a real estate attorney in the state where you're performing your transactions. prior to utilizing any part of the wording from this document. Okay. So when I'm done with that, I hit delete. Do not leave that up there. That is for a personal reference, so you understand to fix that before you give it to your seller, before you give it to your attorney or anything like that. You can give it to your attorney like that, but definitely not like that with your seller. Okay, so I'm moving along, guys. I can't see everything. So the address, for simplicity, you just put in the full address. Let's see. Port St. Lucie, Florida, 34951. Okay. And then you just hit the delete until you get rid of all those lines, guys. Okay. Now, I should just put that there, right? Paste. And then the zip. I know this isn't like the most sexy thing, but it's really important you understand how to do this. Okay. So you see where it asks for legal description. Okay. What you want to do is go to your local property appraiser site and look for the legal description. If you want to get the full legal description, you can simply go to your clerk of courts, find out the seller's name, and try to find the deed. If you can copy it off the deed, that is the best place to do it. If you're lost and you don't understand this, the least you can do is put in the property tax ID number, which you can easily get off the property appraiser site. It's important you have more than an address because there's a lot of multiple addresses in the United States and people can make simple mistakes and you don't want to mix them up. You'll typically see it'll say, I'm not going to go in this, but this is where you put in the legal description. And it's some of your older properties up in like the Northeast, sometimes they're like paragraphs long. I mean, they are really long. So put in your legal description. The best way I like to do it is just copy and paste because I don't want to screw it up. Some of them have longitude and latitude in them. So just type it in there. The more detail, the better. Worst case scenario, guys, put in your property tax ID number. Now we're coming down to the numbers. Okay, remember, we only have a 2-page contract. So if I agreed to pay somebody, so say I'm going to give them a $100 deposit. Okay, just like that, guys. So this is the one where you really want to clean it up the best you can because this is where it can get annoying. Okay, that's it. I am no computer wizard. That's it. Okay, so if I was going to pay them $80,000 for the property, this is a math problem. So if you guys were like me and you fell asleep in math class, please stay awake for me on this one. All you do is take your purchase price and you minus off the deposit. So if I'm paying $80,000 for this property, it's simply, oops. And by the way, I don't use the 2 cents line because very rarely do you offer pennies for a property. Okay. So when you add those two up, they should total up to be $80,000. Let me see here. Everybody understand that? Hold on. Let me make sure here. Let me jump on. If you have a question right now, ask me. If you're confused on this point, hey, Rick, I understand it. It's important you understand the math on this. Okay. We're paying $80,000 for the property. We're leaving a $100 deposit, which we're going to leave with who? We're going to leave with the title company. Then the end buyer is going to owe $79,900 at the closing, plus all the additional closing costs that go with it. So, okay, cool. Let me jump back into this. Guys, these contracts are pretty straightforward. These are like just straight to the core of what it needs to be. So the first one says here, earnest money deposit to be deposited with a licensed title company. So when they ask you, hey, Rick, Can't you just give me the earnest money deposit? Go, listen, the contract states I have to give it to a licensed title company or an attorney. And I want you to see right here, within 48 hours. Okay. Guys, this is negotiable, but like you don't want to press this past like 72 hours. 48 hours would be 2 days. 72 hours would be 3 days. Okay. You have to understand upon the acceptance of a ratification of offer, that means both parties sign. So the clock doesn't start on these contracts until both parties sign. Another reference you'll hear title companies used is called a mutually executed contract, an MEC, which basically means both people sign. So once the last person signs, that's when the clock starts. So technically, if you wanted to change this to 72 hours, you could. I wouldn't mess with it. 48 hours to come up with $100 is not that hard to do. And who are we going to give it to? We give it to the title company. The next one talks about prorations. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this contract is geared towards a wholesaler. So you sometimes you have to make adjustments depending on what state you are, the customary actions that they take in that state. So prorations and security deposits, it just basically says the taxes, the seller will pay their proration of the taxes or any outstanding tax fees against the house. So for instance, if the taxes were $1,200 a year and they're selling it in June, basically they would owe $600 back at closing because they've used the house for 6 months. So a proration, 6 out of 12, that's 50%. That's how I come up with a $600 credit. Guys, do not spin your head on this. Leave this up to the title company. Under a normal closing, that's how it works across the entire country. There are some exceptions for states. You can call me to it, but I'm just here to tell you, most sellers understand they're going to pay their portion of the taxes unless they close at the end of the year or like the very beginning month. Okay. The next section, closing date or transfer of title. So this transaction will be closed on or before. That is the key word, on or before. Well, Rick, why would I put before? What if you find a cash buyer right away and wants to close immediately? Wouldn't you rather get paid? Wouldn't your seller rather be cashed out of the house? It's important. Okay. So I'm going to put a closing date. So if I'm writing it for June 5th, okay, remember, this is where you have to have the verbal agreement and listen to your sellers and what they're saying. If their expectation is not to be out of the house till the end of July, hear them out. If you try to sell it like a day before, like say they've lived in the house 20 years, they're not moving out in like 2 weeks. So say on this example, they told me, hey, Rick, we could be out by July 31st. Okay. So I'm going to put it in there like that, just like this, July 31st. And then you put in the year. Now, I want you to understand this. It says on or before. So the reason you always want to have flexibility in a closing date is because a lot of times things don't go as planned. So if you have a ridiculous tight closing date, unless you are highly experienced and you've been doing this 20 years like me, don't put yourself in a corner right off the bat. Most people moving out of house, in my experience, need a minimum of 30 days. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, they're asking for more time if they live in it personally. If it's a rental property, even the tenants need 30 days to get out of there. So remember, the more flexible in your closing, the more options you're going to have, but you have to honor what your seller wants to do. A lot of times they're giving you a really good deal because you're going to close on it by this date. Just make sure you have to have a clear understanding of what the worst closing date is going to be on it. Okay. Closing will be held at, and this is where you spell out your title company. Okay. So this has to be your title company. Let's just pretend that's the name of them. This is non-negotiable because the minute you let them use their title company, you're going to go to a place that is not familiar on how you do business. And maybe they've never done an assignment of contract and you're going to have problems with it. So what I would do is I put my title company and right next to it, I'm going to put the phone number too. So I would do something like this. Got to get my actual title company. And I put their phone number right next to it. Why? Because now they have a contract with the title companies. If they have any questions, they can put it right there. Okay. So it says here, The seller agrees to transfer marketable title free and clear of all encumbrances except those listed and paid and required by the state, such as doc stamps, deeds, mortgages, and title insurance. Now it says here, so what that means is your seller has to sell a property that's free and clear. So if they run title and there's like a federal lien against it for some unpaid child support or anything like that, it's up to your seller to clear it up. It's not your obligation to do that. I don't pay for other people's stuff unless it's an incredible deal. So if you know the property might have an issue, say you're marketing to a code violation list and you're concerned with it, remember, it's not your job to figure out what's owed on the property. Leave that to the title company because they're going to tell you if it can close or not. And then sometimes they owe more than the property's worth. And that's a whole nother can of worms you have to open up. But remember, the title company has to run the title to see what it's owed against it. They cannot sell you a property that is not free and clear. Why is that important? Because I don't want you ever to put any of your own cash, any of your partner's cash, or any of your cash buyers' money at risk. And for that reason, they will not buy the property without what they call a title insurance. And in this section, it says here, seller agrees to furnish title insurance in the amount of the purchase price showing no encumbrances except for that in the previously noted. Now, I will tell you this, a lot of time, I have to pay for this. So if you've agreed to pay for title insurance, then you got to switch this word up to buyer. Okay. So I'm going to highlight this for you so you guys don't forget this. Let me see. Bold. There we go. So if you guys, when it comes to paying for certain types of closing expenses, we spell it out here, but like you can switch buyer and seller on any of them. The biggest expenses you're going to have in the closing cost are the title insurance. The title insurance by far is going to be your biggest expense. The really cool thing is there's a formula at your title company and you can calculate it to the dollar of what it costs based on the sales price. So you already know what you're risking by the do that. The second one is usually the recording fees. This is the cost to go down to the courthouse. They send it electronically now, and they record the transfer of the deed and sometimes record the mortgage, and they charge per $1,000, like X amount of cents. Okay. Those are two of your biggest expenses. And sometimes, guys, here's a little clue is sometimes my sellers pay for it because they feel it's right. If I have a really, really good deal, I will go in this section and tell them, listen, buyer pays for the title insurance and buyer will pay for the recording fees. The one thing I never pay for is I never pay for somebody else's liens, and I do not pay. What else I don't pay? I don't ever agree to pay their mortgage. Okay. So it's important you spell this out. Sometimes we miscommunicate and we say something verbally and we don't fix it in the contract. If you get called to the table, like be a good person and do what you promised because it will only come back to you tenfold. Okay. We make these mistakes all the time. Everyone's human. I just want you to understand that. Now, the next section, seller shall maintain property in its current condition, insure against all losses until closing in the event of destruction covered by insurance. Buyer may elect to close and collect the insurance proceeds. Basically, what you're telling them is the way I see the property today is the way it has to be in the closing. Your end buyer probably want to walk through the property one time before they close. That's normal, but it's not going to stop your closing. Okay. The next section, they talk about defaults. And this is important. You know this, understand this. If the buyer defaults under this contract, which is you at this point, any and all money deposited by the buyer shall be retained by seller as full liquidated damages. So keep this in mind. If you leave $100 and you don't fall through on that contract, your worst case scenario is $100 as long as you're not committing fraud or doing anything unethical. Okay. I don't like to give my money away. Okay. Neither should you. So keep in mind, if you leave $100 or $1,000, that's what you're technically at risk. Now, understand your seller has to agree to this. That's why we put it in our contracts. Most of the time when you present your contracts to attorneys, this is the one thing that they freak out about. They want to sue you for everything. And honestly, you want to stick to this fully liquidated damages your deposit because it limits your liability in these contracts. Okay. Guys, I'm not a lawyer. Seek legal advice, but I'm here to tell you if they want to keep you on the hook for everything, you have to weigh if you really want to buy this house and make sure you're getting a really, really good deal. If you're getting a really good deal, what do you care, right? Okay. It says if seller defaults, meaning the person selling you, buyer may pursue all remedies allowed by law, and seller agrees to be responsible for all costs incurred to the buyer as a result of seller's default. So it's a little bit one-sided on this, but keep in mind, guys, we're buying problematic properties and we are at risk of not having clear title and some other stuff. And sometimes these deals don't work out and you have to walk away, and sellers don't always understand it. It's important that you don't get sued to fulfill the contract, that the worst case scenario, you should walk away from your deposit. Okay. So section 6, remember we talked about assignable contracts. The terms and conditions of this contract shall bind the successors, heirs, administrators, trustees, and assignees of the respective parties. Okay. If you notice section 8, you kind of spell it again. You don't even need to. This contract is assignable by the buyer. You have to have the word assignable, assignment of contract, something in your contract that clearly says you have the right to assign the contract. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. One is like this, where you don't need consent from the seller to assign your contract. You do not want to have consent from your seller to assign your contract. That's a terrible contract, and you never want to be pegged in that corner. Okay. Section 7, seller agrees that the buyer may advertise property and have access during reasonable hours to show properties to others. Every now and then I have to draw this out with sellers. Keep in mind, like if they're living in the property, they don't want people trampling it through all the time. If it's vacant, it's never an issue, but we always try to put everything in there. Okay. Section 9. This is important because I talked about it earlier. Inspection. Okay. I'm gonna let you guys read this on your own. The most important thing you do here, hold on, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Guys, you see you fill out price, you put in dates, your title company, and then this one. Do not leave that at 0. Okay. Unless you are getting the most incredible deal of your lifetime. You always want room in here. How much room? This is the wild child question. Okay. The least you want to do as a wholesaler, if it's a really good deal, would be 7 to 10 days. And I'm telling you guys, if you're a beginner, that's way too tight. So if you're just starting out, I always put 30. Okay. Now, in a really good market, sellers will balk at this. Realtors will have a heart attack. The normal inspection period for a retail contract is 10 to 15 days. Okay. Ask for 30. Why? Because it gives you reason. What that allows you is inspect a property 30 days from the time both parties sign this contract. That gives you 30 days to find a buyer. Okay. So if they needed 2 months to close on it, you got 30 days to find a cash buyer to get this thing done. On the 28th day, 29th day, if you can't find anyone, you can't make it work, you have the legal right with your inspection clause in section 9 to walk away from the property without any recourse and get your deposit back. Okay. Now, if you have 30 days, do not wait till the 29th day to back out of the contract. Honestly, the sooner you do it, the better. How do you know when you got to back out of the contract? When you can't get a cash buyer within $10,000 of your purchase price. It means you paid too much for it. So you can go back and renegotiate, which is always a slippery slope, or you can just get out of the contract. Okay. Now, 30 days is my advice for the minimum. Guys, I'm here to tell you, when I have really sloppy properties and they're a train wreck and a mess, I'll put 90. I don't care. Like, honestly. And here's another little tip. If you think you're paying too much for the property and like the property is in bad shape, but you know they need to sell it to someone like you, just put a longer inspection period. And that gives you more time to try to get them down on their number. Maybe you have to have a contractor come out, look at the AC and everything else on the property and go from there. Now, we talked about the additional terms section. Guys, this is crucial right here. This is where you write in all like the little stuff. So I'll put on here like number 1. Buyer agrees to pay 2021 back taxes. Maybe they don't want to pay that tax bill and you're getting a phenomenal deal up to a maximum of Maybe it was $1,000. Okay. Because you can go on and write clauses like this. It's important if you make an agreement to them. Now, obviously, I'm getting a discounted price if I do this. If you do this, make sure you put it in writing because you're more inclined to get a better deal from your seller when you do that. So somebody asked, hey, Rick, should I take notes when I'm at the appointment? If it's important for you to pay those back taxes, you can just calculate the number. So if I get a $10,000 discount by paying their $1,000 of back taxes, remember, I pay this at the closing with the title company. I'm not paying it before, then go ahead and put it down. Number two, guys, I've literally seen this. So say buyer agrees to bring one large pepperoni pizza to the closing. You know, you guys, you got to like keep this light. Like sometimes you got to have fun with people. What's it really going to cost you to do it? Although I can't spell pepperoni. You can tell that's what I'm thinking about for dinner, but pepperoni. Okay. That's it. This, you could put anything in here. I've seen this as long as 3 pages. I've seen it as 1. So once you do that, you're going to put the date, which today is 06. I like to put a hard number date in there because nobody can mess with it. Okay. Uh-oh. I tabbed it over too far, didn't I? Six, 5. And this is why I want you guys to do this on your own, because you'd be surprised when you're doing this under the gun and from someone, it's painful. Okay. And then this is where you're going to sign. And then you're going to print your name below it, and you're going to put a phone number on there. The reason why is when you give it to your title company, all the contact information will be on there. You can put the email on there. Guys, if you have an LLC and you're buying into it, make sure you put on there. So if your LLC is Venture Capital LLC, signing on behalf of Venture Capital LLC. Okay. It's important you do not sign for personally when you're buying it through a company. If you're buying it in your own name, just put it on your name. And remember, you have the right to assign this a contract, which is our step 2. So let me jump over any questions, and then we are going to actually go through the assignment agreement. JF says Rick's Little Caesar, not Domino's. Deals off. See, I didn't specify what type of pizza, so you know, that's important. So I tell you, man, that Little Caesars, man, it tastes so good going down, but it does something to you after. I'm more of a Domino's guy. I'm kind of a Shack guy too, so that's why I like it. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go into the assignment agreement. So to be honest, if you guys got any questions, this is recorded. It's easy to go through. Now, I'll personally, you can print this contract out. What I like to do, other than like the name of the buyer and the seller, which is going to be set in stone, and the legal description, I like to fill the contract out in front of the seller because it makes sure you have all the verbal agreements, you put them in writing, and it actually makes them feel real comfortable. There's something about when someone pulls out a pre-printed contract, all said and done, it's probably like a little bit cocky, and you're going to come off as like a little bit too slick. So the more you kind of fumble through with them, not fumble, but just show them like you're human, the more you're going to get trust out of them. And so guys, always use like a blue pen. Try to use a blue felt pen because you can tell the difference between a copy and original. That's why lawyers and title companies like to do that. So, here's a great question here. So this isn't being sneaky with the agent. Like, will they trim me down working together with a wholesaling? I'm here to tell you guys, we use the word wholesaling because it is a niche in what we do. It's a very profitable niche and it works very well. And I've proven it over the 20 years as my son's proven it in the last 5 years. Do not use the word wholesaler when you're talking to sellers and you're talking to agents, because they don't get it. And there's a lot of negative preconceived notions with what we're out there. So remember, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be some sort of bad apples out there. And I don't want you to be caught up with them. So the simple way is say, listen, I'm just a regular Joe. I'm looking to buy a house for cash in this neighborhood. Can you help me out? Now, when I get into it with the agent, when it comes down to writing the contract, I'll ask them if they understand. Have you ever done a wholesale deal? And you walk them through it. If you hit them like right off the bat with them, they're going to reject you instantly. So you're better off to kind of gain the rapport and their trust with them and then educate them. And if they don't want to do it, then so be it. And understanding 9 out of 10 agents are fearful of wholesaling because they think it threatens their own business model. And if anything, it enhances it. So awesome question. And guys, when you're with your sellers, do not sit there and tell them you're a wholesaler. You are just a regular cash buyer and you have partners that help you fund your deals. Okay. So just always make sure you're telling the truth. So JF says, hey, Rick, how much should we pay to have an attorney review the contract to make it compliant with the state? Honestly, I'm hoping you don't pay a dime. So most attorneys will review stuff, give you like 15 minutes, depending on what state you're in. If you're in you need an attorney to close in your state, you're going to have them review it anyways. Try to work with a title company and they'll typically do it for free, but they're doing that on a contingency you send them business. So if you don't plan on sending them business, make sure you find a lawyer or a title company you would do business with. Yes, rather than, okay. So let's go through the assignment and then we will go through the questions. So now I find the assignment agreement is where most investors struggle with this. Okay, let me separate the two there. So now we have a purchase agreement. So we've entered an agreement with our seller and now we have a contract. So it's important to understand you are actually selling the contract. You are not selling the property. So for this example, I'm going to teach you how to fill out an assignment of contract, and I'm going to teach you everything that you have to disclose in an assignment contract to make sure it's legal. So you are the assigner, okay? Whoever has the original contract is the assigner. So in this instance, it was Richard Ginn because I put it in my own name. Now, I could technically see this assignment of contract. I can take my agreement and say I opened up an LLC the next day. I talked to my accountant. He's like, yeah, that's a great idea. You can assign it from Richard Ginn to your new LLC. And then from there, you can assign it from your new LLC to your new cash buyer. So don't freak out about it. It's the exact same process. Honestly, you do not need a company to buy a property. Remember, you're not taking title to the property. Your plan is hopefully to assign it or work with one of your cash partners to assign it to. So the new buyer here is, let's see, Fish Buyers LLC. So 9 times out of 10, it's going to be like an LLC that's buying it, occasionally a corporation, sometimes a person. That's it. They are considered the assignee. So the assigner, which is me, which has the contract with the motivated seller, is selling it to the assignee. The assigner and the assignee who mentioned together will be referred to as the parties. So I'm trying to look through everything here. Assigner has entered into an agreement. Who's the assigner? I'm the assigner for the purchase of the real estate with Jane Doe. I think that's what I put down. I'm going to put Johnny Depp. Don't need that. How people watch that stuff. Okay. On the contract underlying transaction, the contract is attached. So yes, you are going to have to disclose your contract to your new assignee, the person you're selling your contract to. Why? Because that's what they're actually buying. So you're going to attach your contract to this agreement. And then the idea is they want to make sure that they're getting the same property rights as you're getting with it. So once again here, you're going to put in, so like right here, I'll put in 123 USA Street, So I usually copy and paste this section. And by the way, on these agreements, you should type them out. They have to be very clear and precise. Remember, you're not looking to impress your new buyer of your contract. You need to make sure you have a precise contract. Okay. So capitalizing here, let's see. And then you're going to put in the legal description here. Okay. I'm not going to do it because there's usually you just want to cut and paste it. And remember, guys, go to your property appraiser site, or you can go to your clerk of courts, look up your seller's last name and first name and find that property. And some of the older properties, these will be very long descriptions with letters, numbers, all sorts of fun stuff with it. Okay. Make sure I got everything in here. So the next part, the parties agree to the following terms and conditions. Number one, the assigner assigns all rights he acquired under the contract to the assignee. So whatever your rights are in the contract are your new buyer's rights. So anything you put into the additional section, they have to accept, or you have to go get it changed. Okay. And it sometimes happens. Number two, assignee accepts all terms and conditions of the contract. The assignee has reviewed the contract. So when you guys ask the question, hey, does my new contract buyer get to look at the contract? Think about it. They can't buy a contract they haven't seen the terms to. So by hiding the contract, you're creating problems. So you have to disclose it. So get it out and get up front. They can't go around your back if you have a fully executed contract. Remember, you have to show your contract. I don't understand why people constantly say, I can't show them my contract. That's private information. You are selling the contract. You have to share it. Okay. So it becomes an exhibit as part of your assignment of contract. Okay. And then it says, assignee fully understands the terms and conditions of the contract and represents to the assigner that is willing and able to close the underlying transaction. Basically means, yes, I accept your terms and I want to move forward. Okay. So the next one is assignee will deliver to the assigner. Remember, I'm the assigner, you and me. Cashier's check, money order, wire transfer, and a deposit of the amount of so-and-so. Okay. So we're going to do a deposit. Now we are going to teach you opposite of how we work with deposits that we do on normal purchase and sales agreement. You're trying to leave as little as you can. Here is the opposite. Okay. I like to ask for, see, it's all going to be relative to your market, but I ask for $5,000. Guys, do not be scared of asking for a big number here. You know why? Because it's just a deposit. If their intentions to truly close on it, say they're buying $100,000. So this property, an example, is $80,000, a $5,000 deposit. When you got to close in 10 to 14 days, if they're struggling to leave you $5,000, you're never going to get a deal with them. So stop. Don't ask for 1,000. Don't ask for 2,000. The least I would ask for of anybody, the least on any contract, I don't even care if it's a $10,000 house, would be $3,000. Okay. I would do 5,000. Guys, this is the part where if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. Okay. The money still goes into the title company, but understanding if they walk away from the rights on this contract, they lose this deposit. If it's small, they're willing to walk away more times than you think they would. So the bigger you make your deposit, the more your cash buyer is going to be on the hook. Don't do less than 3,000. Ask for 5,000. The 1,000 to 2,000 doesn't really do you a lot of good. You're gonna have to do a lot of babysitting with that number. Okay. And wouldn't you rather find out if they're a terrible buyer up front now? This will smoke them out. I'm telling you, minimum $3,000 deposit. Okay. And then, so I've learned so much through this. I've had a lot of other investors who buy properties from me. They agree to it, to sign it, and then we go here. Read this next sentence. This assignment is not effective until the deposit is paid and both parties sign the assignment. Okay? It's not effective. Meaning, if they don't go and leave their deposit, you do not have an agreement. End of story. If they don't sign it, you don't have an agreement. Okay? Sometimes you'll find other wholesalers try to tie you up and not leave you money. You do not want to do business with those people. Okay? You want to find like rich landlords, people that have a lot of money. You want to find a guy who wants to fix up a house for his daughter type of deal. Those are the ones you truly want. Guys, I don't sell to a lot of other wholesalers just for this reason, because I just don't have time for, I don't allow anyone to daisy chain on my deals. Okay, section 4, assignee will pay assigner a total assignment fee. This is where it gets weird, okay? And a lot of people don't understand the math. So understand this. You're paying $80,000 for the property. So let's say in this example, you told your buyer, say, listen, I have this contract. It's for $90,000. It's for a rental house. I think it's perfect for what you want to do. If you can close quickly, I might be able to give it to you for $90,000. That's great. So say you go and they look at your contract. They go, that's right. Then they do their own diligence online. They drive by the property. Remember, you're not a realtor. You're not representing pictures or anything like that. They go, yeah, I'm in for 90. Now you've got to reverse engineer the math. Okay. The deposit's the deposit. I just leave this out of this part of it. Okay. So now you are negotiating an assignment fee. So if he's paying you 90 grand and you're paying your seller 80 grand, that leaves you a total of $10,000. Okay. I want you to make more, but we're going to use an example here. You can use zeros if you want to. I just like to make it a little bit clearer when I'm dealing with the sales side. Okay. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take this. You ready for this? And then I'm going to bold it and I'll underline it. Okay. If they don't understand this, you're crazy. And then what I also do is have them initial right next to that 10,000. This way they can never, ever waver from you. This amount includes the deposit listed in paragraph 3. So technically on this, I screwed it up. Yes, it does. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other contract. So you're earning a $10,000 fee. They're leaving a $3,000 upfront deposit with your title company to make sure they fulfill their end of their contract. Okay. So $10,000. Let's move down to number 5. Okay. By the way, the assignment fee will be paid when? It's paid at the closing for obvious reasons. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you, when you get really good at this down the road, I'm going to teach you how to collect that $10,000 assignment fee the day you write the contract. It's perfectly legal. Banks do it all the time, but you have to have a reputation and you have to have a history of doing this business and being highly reputable. Don't start in the beginning doing it. Okay. Number 5, at closing, the assigner will receive blank amount of the assignment fees. Okay. At the closing, let's see. The assignment fees will be added to the purchase price to identify the contract. So, let me see here. At closing, the assigner. Actually, this is an old part of the contract. So I'm going to go back to this. At closing, the assigner will receive. Who's the assigner? Okay. It should be the exact same amount. So they receive $10,000 in total, period. Okay. Remember, you are the assigner. So you're going to receive 10,000. This is redundant. It's done. So you can just make sure they understand who's getting that 10,000. Title company's not getting it. In the end, you are getting that fee. So lawyers make us put it in there. So it's important it's there. So moving on, number 6, this is where we do all the math. This is kind of the confusing part that I get the most questions on. The assignment fee will be added to the purchase price identified in the contract. How much is the contract for? $80,000. The total amounts owed to the assignee, owed by the assignee, which is your new cash buyer, are as follows. So number 1, the original contract price, which is what? $80,000. Oops, I got an extra 0 in there. Is that a period or a comma? I don't know. I can never tell on the computer here. Oh, that's it. Okay, $80,000. So delete this up. And you guys, this is where you got to make it like really clean. Okay, and I'll put in the extra zeros because I don't want any misunderstanding here. Next one, the assignment fee. How much is the assignment fee? The assignment fee is right here. It's $10,000. Okay. So if it's $10,000, Everybody with me so far? Okay. Here's where people always kind of like screw up the math on it. And guys, this is nothing more than a math problem, but your new you're a new assignee has to understand this agreement. So $80,000 is the purchase price. $10,000 is the fee you're charging to hand over your rights to the contract. And then you're putting in your deposit. What's your deposit? The $3,000. So here's how you do it. 3. Okay. $3,000. Okay. So what's the total due at closing? Okay. Guys, this is easy. Take the $80,000, take your assignment fee, add them together, $90,000, back off the $3,000, and that leaves you what? I'm not a mathematician. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. The assigner owes $87,000 at closing. Okay. A lot of you are going, but Rick, the buyer knows what I'm paying for it. Yes. You cannot hide that in an assignment agreement. If you are, it's not an assignment. It doesn't work. So they need to know what your underlying contract is for, which is $80,000 here. You're making them put up a $3,000 deposit. I'd rather you ask for 5. And honestly, if this was 5, then they would only bring 85,000. It's a difference of $2,000. I want you guys to understand, you just cut out all the crap when you ask for a higher deposit. Now, number 7, this is important. Assignee must close the underlying transaction on or before blank at 5 p.m. Why is this important? If we go back to our original agreement, well, I apologize for getting back to her. What is our closing date? What did I put for the closing date? On or before July 31st. Okay. By doing an assignment of contract, you are telling him, if you do not fill in this part, that he or she can close it on or before July 31st. So I don't like to wait till the end to see if my new buyer is going to work out. I'm going to make them close it at least a week to 10 days, or maybe even 2 weeks before I'm going to close. So this one's July 31st. So it's a very generous time. So unless my seller is not ready, I'm going to put on there 07, maybe like 20. The idea is, do not give them till the final date on your contract, because if they don't come through, then you don't even have an option of getting another buyer and extending the contract. So always make sure you give yourself a buffer. I recommend always 7 days before. Okay. The fact that they need a little bit more time on this contract, you still got to get permission from the seller to close earlier. They probably got to move a bunch of stuff out, but the reason you do this is because you don't want to wait till your contract expires to find out you can't find another buyer for it. Okay. It says here, most important, assigner will select the closing agent. Does it say the assignee will select the closing agent? No, it's non-optional. Once they sign this, they go to your title company. Guys, if you let them use your title company, you're going to have massive problems. It never works out with another title company. I'd like to tell you title companies are in there for like the neutral interest. They're not. Whoever hires them, that's the person they fight for. Your title company already has the contract. They have everything. They understand how you work, and they'll communicate with any issues with your buyer. Remember, the higher deposit you have, if you make them close before your closing date, you are always in control. This saves you from going around chasing your cash buyer to do everything. Okay, let's finish up here. We're almost done. Then we're going to do Q&As. Okay. Section 8, if assignee fails to close the underlying transaction by the date indicated in paragraph 7, guys, this is paragraph 7 right here. Okay. Assignee will forfeit its deposit and all property rights, all rights to the property under the contract, and will automatically revert to the assigner. You don't have to sue them. You don't have to do anything. So remember why I want you to leave that bigger deposit. People don't walk away from large deposits. Say I ask for a $500 deposit, people leave you all the time over $500. It's cheap. $3,000, they're going to pay attention. $5,000, oh my God, I'm going to close this no matter what. The higher deposit, the less babysitting you do and the less sweating you have to do as a wholesaler. Okay. So that deposit automatically forfeits back to you. Now, I will tell you, a good title company will make you sign an agreement ahead of time. So when you put money in escrow, the title company is a neutral party. So what you can do is have a contract that basically says buyer and seller agree to forfeit deposit if the if the buyer or seller doesn't execute their end of the assignment agreement. Why do you do that? Because then you don't have to go to mediation to your state, which can take years to get the money back. Um, it's a pain in the butt, and you might have to hire a lawyer to do that. So talk to your title company about it. But I'm telling you, by signing these agreements, there's already a set plan. If your contract buyer falls through, you keep the deposit. You rapidly go out and find a new cash buyer, because guess what? You're probably going to have to offer the property at a discounted rate because your buyer left you in a pinch for time. If you don't leave enough window of time, it's hard to get a new buyer, and you're going to have to renegotiate your contract. Number 9, this is important ones you got to understand. A lot of this stuff I've learned through 20 years of pain of what people will do to you on these agreements. If the assignee attempts to communicate to the sellers in any form, it will immediately terminate and forfeit the deposit for liquidated damages. Once again, the higher you have in deposit, the less risk they're going to play with you. If I have a $5,000 deposit and they send an email or they call the seller and I can document it, you keep the $5,000, they hit the curb. Okay. It's important you have teeth on these contracts because you don't want people going around you. Okay. A signer, which is me and you, must deliver clear title at the closing. Most cash buyers are going to listen, Rick, I got to make sure this thing has got clear title. Okay. If clear title cannot be given, then this assignment agree will be canceled and the deposit will be refunded to the assignee. So if your new contract buyer is having issues understanding that we have to deliver it with free and clear title, how do we do that? With a title policy with a title company. Okay. Moving on, man. There's all fun clauses in these. Number 11 is a repeat of it again. It's just another way. It says assignee agrees to communicate. It says they will not contact your seller. Assignee agrees to communicate solely with and through the assigner, which is you. Once again, we're telling them if you have any issues, you have to go through us, and then we'll contact the seller, either us or the title company. Number 12, this was a $30,000 mistake I learned a long time ago, and this has made me a ton of money since. So I want you to hear this one out. Okay, guys, we enter into problem properties. They have code violations, they have liens on them. And as you get more advanced in wholesaling, you'll learn how to negotiate these liens down prior to the closing. Why is that important? Because it's future profits for you. So I get a lot of code violations, sometimes as much as a $50,000 lien, and I'll get it knocked down to like $2,000. Saves $48,000. Okay. Remember, if you negotiate a lien and you don't have this clause in here, that new negotiation goes to your new contract buyer, which means you work for them. Let me teach you how to work for yourself. It says in this one, the signer may at any time before closing renegotiate underlying purchase price in the contract. Say you get a cheaper price from your seller. Maybe they didn't disclose something. That difference goes to you. A signer is entitled to the entire difference between the contract purchase price and this assignment. The difference, if any, will be paid as an additional assignment fee at closing. OMG, my friends. If you guys don't understand what this means, it means if you ever renegotiate the contract, you knock down a lien or do anything like that, whatever the difference is goes to your closing, your assignment fee at closing. If it's not spelled out in the contract, you are not entitled to this. Guys, I once negotiated a IRS lien down and I knocked it 30 grand down. I was dancing and I found out the seller told me, his attorney told me at the closing that we appreciate you negotiating that forward, but the new seller is entitled to it, not you, unless you put it in writing. So number 12, you got to have it in every assignment agreement. I'm telling you guys, it will save you a ton. I can't tell you how many times we have to renegotiate a property for something. And it's so important that you get the difference. If you want your new buyer to get a discount, then you just adjust your contract. You can adjust the assignment fee But remember, typically you're going back to the seller to adjust the fee. You got to make sure you're getting paid. Okay, number 13, property sold as is. This is kind of, it just basically says they're telling you the truth. So just like a regular transaction with a realtor, if they're hiding any representations of the property, and they're trying to defraud you, then they're going to have issues with it. Now, keep in mind, you're going to get issues with these properties, but I'm talking about if they knew the property was flooded out, if they knew the foundation's cracked and they couldn't get insurance for it, or they've had 4 other buyers and they've all left because of an underlying issue, it is their job to disclose that stuff to you. That is the human thing to do, and it's important. Okay, so number 14, the final one, which this is so ridiculous we have to put an assignment agreement, but it says, this agreement is null and void if the deposit of, what's our deposit? $3,000. And you guys like, well, Rick, why are you so repetitive? Because I want my new cash buyer buying my contract to be very clear on what that deposit amount is. So I'm going to put that $3,000 there and I'm going to bold it. Okay. Now we're ending on this agreement on the 5th. Guess what? The maximum I'm giving him is 24 hours. And honestly, it should be done that day, especially with wires. So at 6/6/2022, and what time is it? It's 6:38 right now. I'll give him until 5 p.m. and I'm going to sell up my time zone. And capitalize here. Let's see. EST. Can I be any clearer than that, guys? By the way, I can't tell you how many people try to take advantage of me on this. Oh, yeah, checks in the mail. Don't worry, Rick, it's coming. No, here's the deal. You don't do it, it's over. And honestly, if you want to make their life difficult, you can technically sue them for not leaving a deposit. It's manipulation and fraud, but I wouldn't bother doing that. Okay. Now I'm going to go down there. I'm going to put the date. Remember, on these contracts, I like to type them out in like a Word document. If you want, you get like a PDF filler. It's a little bit cleaner. But I'm doing this just for demonstration purposes. You are the assignee. So this is where you're going to write out and assign your name. And then down here, so if I'm doing it personally and this is my first deal and I don't have an LLC yet. Oh boy, I got the cap locks on. So guys, I apologize for how slow I am with this. But I am a old school. I'm old school in this. Oops. No, you get it. I'm not good on the spacing there. There you go. So you put that, if you're signing on behalf of a corporation, put on behalf of, 123 LLC, and you'll sign there and put the date there. It's critical you put dates on these. I can't tell you how important the date is. Date is everything on contracts. Make sure you always have a date. And then I like to even do the time on it. So it is 6:40 p.m. It did it again. 6. Where'd my 6 go? There it is. Okay. And guys, this is it. The thing, if you have not figured out, I want you to understand, you have to submit your contract with your assignment of contract, because remember, they're buying your contract. So they need to know what the terms are. Number 2, deposit is everything when it comes to an assignment contract. The bigger deposit, the better the odds of your deal going very, very smooth. Honestly, when they leave me a big deposit, it's like stressless. The lower the deposit, the more stressed you get. And last but not least, leave room for your closing. I recommend at least a week between your closing date in case your new buyer does not follow through. You have time to find a new buyer, and you sometimes have to get your contract extended. It's really important you do that. So let me jump back in here. And okay, now I can see my face again. So guys, this is it. It's like, I know this isn't like, we could teach 1,000 things. If you don't understand how to write the contract, it's hard to move forward. So we're doing this June challenge, And I want everyone to get a deal. I mean, honestly, I feel that everybody who really applies himself will easily be able to accomplish this. Yes, you'll get prizes from me and Zach, but you know what? You'll get the ultimate prize, which is financial freedom and the confidence to show you that you can easily do wholesaling. Guys, I'm no brighter than anybody else on this live. I just took consistent action and I've never looked back. 20 years. Okay. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. So I want you to take this and I want you to replay it over and over. Download the contracts, practice it once yourself, go back through the videos. You'll notice that some of the clauses, especially on the assignment of agreement, are repetitive and they're there for a reason because you got to keep repeating it to like a child saying, you're on the hook with me. We are not playing around with this. We are going to get this done. And it's so important. Okay. So let me pull this up here. I got tons and tons of questions. Okay, let me jump back here. Okay, so where is it? Now I lost it. Corinthians says, Rick, so you would be these. Yes, so whoever has the contract is the assignor. Okay, and your new buyer of the contract is the assignee. So it's like the same thing a bank does. A mortgagor is the bank, and the mortgagee is the person that applies for the mortgage. So same thing in this. The assignor is the own-or, if you think about it like that. And the assignee is the person that's trying to acquire the contract from you. So hopefully that helps with that. So, okay, I'm going to go back up so I can get, we got a ton of questions here. You guys, if you got a question, let's do it now. This is my favorite part. We're going to interact. And guys, I want you to understand. So we're doing the June challenge. Our goal for me and Zach is to get everyone to get a deal to show you that number one, you don't need massive amounts of complicated instructions from people that honestly haven't been doing the business for a super long time. I'm teaching you from a 20-year experience level, and I'm giving you the core stuff you need to get a deal done. You have to use these two contracts. Okay. I showed you how to walk through and fill them out confidently. You guys can do this. I'm telling you, I was in the same boat as you guys. And honestly, the way you see me going through the contracts, how I go through my sellers, I just real slow. Do not act like you're a superstar in front of your sellers. They don't care. They just want you to buy their house. Okay. Okay. Here's a good one. So MJ says, what's up, MJ? And by the way, this man takes care of, like, he comes to every one of the lives and he brings it. So he's learned a lot. So it says, Rick, if you show your buyer how much you're getting paid with the contract, what's the point of doing a double close? In that case, you might as well do an assignment. I agree. That's the technique I've taught you here. You hear the word double close. And to be honest with you, the only reason you do a double close is because, number one, you don't have a choice. Maybe you can't. Why most people do a double close is they don't want they don't want someone to see the purchase price. Well, I'm here to tell you guys, in the end, unless you're in a like non-disclosure state, they're going to find out what you paid for the house. It's public record, unless you're in a state where they don't disclose that. I much prefer just to be honest and clear with people. I let them know I'm buying the property for a profit. Is what I do for a business. I have no idea what I'm going to make. I have no idea if I'm going to rent the house out, if I'm going to flip it. It just depends on how much money we have to put into it. So the only reason you would do a double closing over an assignment is because you have no other choice, or you just don't care and you do it. I do double closings all the time. I don't even do double closings. I just buy it and like I sell at the end. Some properties we have that I have to wait out a problem 90 days. I don't care. I'm still making a ton of money. But a double close would avoid the assignment agreement. But remember, you're going to have double the cost than closing. So I agree with you 100% on that. Okay. TMO asks, does the agent show the property to the buyer? How do I stop buyers and sellers or agents from circumventing me out of the deal? Number one, if you have a legitimate contract, there's technically no way they can go around you. Okay. So I'm not going to get into like legal stuff, but whoever enters into the contract first has the rights, has the equitable interest in the property. So going around you, if you have a strong rapport, a strong relationship with the seller, there's just no going around. Like, honestly, if you have a really good relationship, your seller will call you right away. Hey, this guy called me. Guess what? If you entered into an assignment agreement with that new contract buyer and they called the seller and they can provide you a recording or a proof or a screenshot that they called, take their deposit, teach them a lesson. Like, they're not going to go around you. As far as showing the property, remember, you do not want to take these pictures of these houses and throw them all over the internet. That is brokering without a license. You have to sell your contract. It's up to your buyer to do their due diligence with them. If you want to send them a private, secured link email of pictures that you happen to have, then that's your prerogative too. But you're not out there openly marketing, selling the house on the public thing called the internet. So, I'm not sure what what legal ramifications can be linked to this kind of work. Maybe that's the question he was asking, so I'm not sure. Give me more details. I'll help you out with that. Why did he do an inspection period till July 31st versus June 31st? Because the reality is the longer your inspection period is, the more options you have to figure out what you want to do with the property. Maybe you want to close on it with a partner. Maybe you want to sign it. Maybe you're having problems finding the right cash buyer for it. So the more time you have in the inspection period, guys, will give you the leniency to go out and find a contract buyer for your contract. If you put a 7-day inspection period, like you literally got 6 days to find a cash buyer for that property. And you're usually going to have to sell it at a massive discount property, and it's going to put a lot of stress on your deal. So the more time you can get without upsetting your seller, listen, when a property's in rough shape, it's not uncommon to have very long inspection periods. The sellers get it. Like, they want to make sure you're comfortable with it. Let's face it, guys, the properties we're buying are not the nice, pretty houses you're finding on MLS, and they're typically getting a 10 to 15 day inspection period. So you should easily be able to double it. And remember, if your deal's not going to work out, you want to get out of the contract sooner than later. You owe it to your sellers. Sometimes things come up on properties. Maybe it's got a crack in the foundation. Maybe the drain field's shot and it's going to cost a fortune, or the roof is completely shot and you didn't know it, and it's a $20,000 correction. You either adjust the contract price or you get out of it. And people are going to say, Rick, how do I know if I have the right price? If you're marketing to your cash buyers for your contract, you will know very quickly if you did the right numbers. Remember, have that painful discussion with your sellers. Get the right price the first time. It's so much easier in the long run to do that. So David says, what if they communicate to your sellers before you have a contract with your buyer? Well, David, there's no way they can reach out to your sellers unless you tell them about it. So we never reach out to any of our cash buyers for contract until we have a legitimate executed contract with our sellers. That protects you. Guys, when I first started, I did a lot. I would used to bring my cash buyers with me right before I signed the contract. And then that's when they would steal it. They would make a phone call or knock on the door when I leave. Don't ever, under any circumstances, unless you are so confused about the deal or you can't figure out a comp or you have a special relationship with your cash buyer, don't ever announce the property, bring it by to them unless you have it under contract. It is a clear recipe to cut you out, and people will take advantage of you. So how do you avoid it? Keep your mouth shut until you have a contract. That's the best way to avoid it, in my opinion. Okay. Joe says, Rick, what do you think about the 70% rule? It doesn't exist anymore, Joe. That's something I learned 20 years ago. And honestly, it has no bearing in today's market. What he's referring to is basically when you have a 70% rule. Says, if you buy the property 70 cents on the dollar, minus off repairs and add in your assignment fee, then you always make money. Honestly, if you can get a deal at 70% under that formula, you're doing phenomenal. The reality is that equation worked a long time ago. I would say your rule's closer to 80 to 83%. That's just this reality of what we're buying on these properties with the bigger numbers. Remember, that's still like pretty big spreads. So, and guys, there's no clear cut like rule on 70%. It's just, here's how I factor if we're going to buy a property. Can I make money on it? And can I minimize my risk? If it's really tight, I have to minimize my risk by doing an assignment of contract. That's how we do it. Who's to say, let me ask you, if you're struggling to pay your rent, or you're trying to keep your cell phone on, or you're trying to get your food for your kids, if you can make $2,000 or $3,000 on a deal and you don't have any risk, go for it. That's how you quantify if you're going to do a deal. As you get going, like I really don't do a deal anything under 25 grand. It's just not worth my time. Why deal with $5,000 and $10,000 deals when I can do 4 or 5 deals, and most of our deals are above 50 grand. I didn't start off doing that, guys. I just learned the skill set as I go. Remember, wholesaling is a basic entry level on how to get financially free. It's a lot of fun. It's hard work, but as you do it more and more, you'll become more and more skilled, and you'll learn different techniques in real estate. You'll learn how to do creative financing. You'll learn how to flip short sales. You'll learn how to collect rental properties. You can do some fix and flips. And every one of those people, anyone who's really good at it, has a really good core foundation of wholesaling. And that's why I try to introduce everybody into it. It's how I got started, how I got my son started. And I want you guys to get started if you have interest in this. Okay. What's up, Bando? Bando says, I was told I need an LLC to get started. So I got one before learning wholesaling. Now you could have waited. Yeah, you could have waited, but you got it. You got it out of the way. So it's just not a requirement. There's no law that requires it. The reason people set up LLCs is it limits your liability. But keep in mind, in wholesaling, if your plan is never really to take possession of the property, which understand, if you enter a contract, you are announcing to the world your intent is to take possession of the property, you could be at risk of being sued. So if you put an LLC on the contract as opposed to your personal name, you're most likely less to get sued, because lawyers don't want to sue startup LLCs that have no money. Okay. But guys, I always tell you, be responsible to do wholesaling. Make sure your intent is there. And if you don't have any money to buy it, you need to go out and align yourself with cash partners, soft money, hard money, whatever you need to do, because you do not want to enter in a contract you have absolutely no ability. Just at least have a backup plan for me. Okay. I did when I got started, and I highly recommend it with you guys. So an LLC is not required. So in this event, if Bando went out and find a property like today, is like, what am I going to do? I can't get an LLC on Sunday. I can't get one on Saturday, or I can't get one on Friday night. If you have an assignable contract, guys, you can assign it right up to the day of the closing to your new LLC, which that one can assign to your new cash buyer for your contract. So you're covered either way. And by the way, an LLC is about $125 to set up. Remember, you're still going to pay taxes on it. And an LLC, it just washes through your personal tax, and the LLC is used to shield you against personal liability. So, so Sam says, yeah, 80 to 90% ARV. Tennessee's at 70. So it depends on where you're at and what your formulation on what your maximum allowable offer on it. So Brandon says, hey, Rick, I have an owner who has a code violation up to $250K and needs $125K cash. Is this deal worth? Should I try to negotiate? Brandon, I got to know what the value of the property is. So if you can put it up there, I'll try to answer it before the end of the stream. I love code violations because they're all negotiable, guys. Joe says, if there's a big difference of zeros, why not just start with bigger deals? The reason why you can start off with smaller deals is because it grows your confidence. It solves problems. Like if you're trying to pay your rent, if you're trying to get groceries for your family. Guys, I took $2,000 on one of my first deals. Like, I got to be on that. $2,000 got me to make $2 million down the road. If I skipped that $2,000, I might have not continued wholesaling because I would have got frustrated. So the thing is, your skill set has to get better when you add the zeros. And the only way you can do it is by repetition. And that's why I recommend just get started, and your deals will grow over time. I promise. So, okay, man, I'm not going to, Mandy, I see your question. I'm going to put your email up there. Guys, go over to freewholesaling.com. I'm going to put it up here It's scrolling on your bottom. If you want to get a copy of the contracts I just reviewed, which is your purchase and sales agreement, you can get it there. And then you get your assignment of contract. It's all right there. And you go back and refer to this live stream. It'll be recorded under our YouTube channel. That's it. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. I got a good one here. Where is it? Bo says, Rick, who is actually paying for the closing costs? So as I showed you in the purchase and sales agreement, it's all negotiable. So in those sections, you can put buyer or seller. Now, if you're confused, like I was when I first filled these contracts out, I would always use the additional terms and conditions section at the end of the contract, and I would spell it out. Now, whenever I got like a really smoking deal, like, listen, Rick, I just need to sell the house and move on with my life, like probates, you guys know I like those, I will put in there, seller agrees to pay all closing costs except for liens and mortgages. Okay. I don't want to be on the hook for stuff I don't know about, but like I'll pay the taxes. I'll pay the settlement fee for the title company. I'll even pay the recording stamps and the title insurance. You know why? Because I'm making like $50,000 and the seller says, as long as you pay the closing fees, I'll move on. The word you want to stay away from in contracts that gets a lot of people in trouble, and a lot of people I've talked on the stream, is when you use a net number. A net number is very, very dangerous in wholesaling because you're guaranteeing a seller they're going to get X amount of dollars. You really can't do that because until you have all the data, like all the liens, all the taxes, all the recording fees, you could put yourself on the hook for a very dangerous number. And for that reason, I've been put in this position. Do not do a net contract. So if the buyer says, I need a net $100,000, you better be very skilled and very tight with your title company because you got to know every dollar that's owed on that property. And sometimes it takes 5, 7, or 10 days to get that number. And then you're in this purgatory, like moving agreement. And I don't like doing that. I said, listen, Mr. Seller, here's what I'll do. I'll pay for the title company's fees. I'll pay for your taxes of a maximum $2,000. And I'll pay the title insurance and the recording fee. So if you guys are going to spell it out, do it in the additional terms section and spell it out. And I usually put a maximum on it. I never do a net deal because there's so many surprises that can come up in the closing. You do not want to be stuck with that. So let's see. That's a good question. Okay. So David says, how are you getting your sellers to sign when doing virtual? Guys, you can do DocuSign. There's Dotloop. There's a million technologies out there. If you have the ability, and I will tell you guys, always try to get in front of your sellers if you're in a local market. Remember, 70% of communication is nonverbal. And if you're in front of them, you can tell a lot. And in this business, you will learn to understand and read people because we're here to help. So, Caleb, I appreciate it. This couple right here, got started. God, it feels like it's yesterday, and they're absolutely killing it. I got Corey out there is killing it. There's so many people, and you guys are the reasons why we did the June challenge. So if you guys are saying, hey, what the heck is the June challenge? Just go over to freewholesaling.com. There is a challenge section, and we are doing 30 days of nonstop videos. That's why I'm here on a Sunday showing you how to fill out contracts, and you can go step by step. So today's the 5th. So anybody's watching the stream, if you want to join the challenge, go ahead and send an email to support with Flip with Rick. Say, I'm in the June challenge, put in your name, and that'll register you and get started on freewholesaling.com and go to the challenge, and you'll see a sequence. And every video, including the one we're doing right now, after a few hours, this one will come up and you can go through it. If you have absolutely no experience, you've never done wholesaling before, me and Zach are the only people out there with the most experience, 25 years experience, to actually teach you wholesaling with no strings attached. I know it sounds crazy. I'm tired of people teaching this business like they did 20 years ago. I want to teach you to get your first deal. And once you get your first deal, I'm going to show you how to get up to $100,000. And you guys, I promise you, if you put in the action, you put in the steps, you will get there so much faster than you ever thought you were going to do. It's up to you. So guys, Sign up for the June challenge. It's real. And every day we're going step by step. So this is going to be 30 chapters. Today we went over contracts. If you guys have seen the 4 days before, if you're saying, dang it, Rick, I missed it, don't worry. Jump into freewholesaling.com. It's all in order for you. Go through it. We're trying to jumpstart you to get you motivated, to get you going. I got a ton of prizes to give away. I'm going to give away my time. You guys know I don't even coach out there, but for a select few that really show me the effort, I'm going to give you everything I got, which is like personal contact with me and Zach. So I want to do that. I want to help out as many people as possible. So do me a favor, guys, go over to freewholesaling.com, get registered, send that email so we can put you in the contest. And if you prove you did a deal in June and you followed our steps, which I know will get you to the path of financial freedom, then you'll hop on a live stream with us. We'll talk about it. We'll all learn from the deals you do. And our goal is to get as many people a deal as possible. Because guys, the ultimate prize is the freedom you get with it, the time you get, the financial freedom. So guys, join us for the June challenge. This is going to be intense. It's not going to stop. Me and Zach are going to over deliver for you. And I promise you, there's no credit card swipe. I'm not going to upsell you. I just want to help you out. And my goal is you crush me and Zach with prizes. I hope you break the bank with us and we give away more prizes we've ever given out in history. And I need as many winners as possible, but I need people to get it done. So it's up to you guys. We need to get stuff done. And I need everyone to participate. So guys, go over to our YouTube channel, Flip with Rick. You guys can hit Zach Ginn up on his YouTube channel. I have my own channel, Rick Ginn. So if you guys want to get to, we cater the information based on, so Zach does a little bit more financial stuff. I do a little bit more life stuff, some fatherly stuff, and we like to have fun with what we're doing. So guys, that's it. I appreciate your time on Sunday. Go spend time with your family, study those contracts, and guys, get the work. You need to reach out and contact as many motivated sellers as possible because I need as many winners in June as humanly possible. Guys, I love you all. I think you're amazing. And I cannot wait to see you in the June challenge, like winner circle. I'm going to be there. Zach's going to be there. The question is, are you going to be there? Guys, I'll see you tomorrow. We have a broadcast tomorrow. Don't miss it out. It'll be on Monday. Guys, 30-day June challenge. Every day we're going and we're going to get you to your first deal and to your first 100 grand. Guys, have an awesome day.